Hello viewers, there are times when I jump into a lobby like this one where I am 1 second off the car in front, minimal practice, and I would reasonably say I have no right to secure a good result, especially after what happens on the opening lap of this race. This was Daily Race C this week, and it was very much a stacked lobby, lots of incredibly fast players in here. And this was my first time doing the race during the week, and so I had zero expectation of securing anything like a good result. So this was I think a really good example of just sticking in there. You never know what might happen. You could always secure a good result if you just give yourself an opportunity. Now, we started towards the back of the pack, obviously with a very bad qualifying time where I only really had a chance to set 1 or 2 laps. And so in a stacked lobby like this, you're never really going to be starting towards the front. And you can see just how close this opening lap is. Everyone really fighting for every position. An incredibly close battle. And that would set the tone really for this race. The standard was incredibly high and the grid was incredibly close. Heading up the hill towards the Schumacher S, side by side with Bria, and we go through here next to each other, it's not going to work out. We're going to get thrown wide onto the gravel, and look at that, down into 16th and last position. So a lot of work to do from here. This was pretty much rock bottom, last place in a very fast lobby, and so you'll see over the course of this video, all is not lost. You just have to stick in there and try to give yourself some sort of opportunity. Now, this race requested that we have 1 pit stop. You don't necessarily have to change your tyres, but you do have to go into the pit lane once. And with my rather shocking opening lap, I thought, you know what, let's just get it done now. Get myself out in clear air, and hopefully this sort of alternative strategy will eventually pay dividends. So on the exit, with a couple of cars here, there's a group of 4 of us here who went in for the pit stop, and of course that fractures the entire grid, so we've got a group of 12, make that 11 as one of them spins out. And I mean, that's what we're looking for there. Everyone in that leading group has not pitted. The guy who spun out, we should probably be in front of that person once they do eventually pit. So that's one position we're kind of guaranteed, as long as I don't crash again. So 16th out of 16. Make that possibly 15th. In fact, it was 15th once, so that guy did spin out a little bit earlier in the lap. And then, of course, taking a look at that group in front, it becomes a little bit fractured with some people going into the pit lane. And that's what we want to see, really. Lots of people fighting and losing time against each other. And in a race like this, where you have the split strategy with some people going in early, some people going in late, there's always that opportunity to fight for positions later on. This is just that phase of the race where you're just trying to set quick lap times and try to indirectly race the people at the front of the grid. So it looks like a couple of people have gone into the pit lane. We've got 3 cars coming out, including Rory just in front in the Ferrari, which seems to be a quick car now. The Ferrari and Lamborghini are very much top caliber cars in Group 3 now, I would say, after the update 1.55 changed the physics of the game slightly. So we have now a group of 4, then the group of 2 immediately in front, then myself, and now it's very much a case of just trying to pull onto the back of all of these groups in front and trying to gain some positions. However, that wasn't really happening. I wasn't really gaining as much as I would have liked. The only real hope, as you can see, was that the guys in front would start fighting each other and costing each other time. And by this lap here, the end of the 3rd lap, you know, Nürburgring GP is a track I've driven many times on this game. It's one of my favourite combinations in Group 3, and I've driven it for real as well, which gives you a bit of an advantage, I suppose. But when you jump on for the first race of the week on a Wednesday, when everyone's been playing it all of Monday and Tuesday, it's not always easy to get up to speed immediately, which is kind of interesting to say when it's a race that has appeared many times over the history, should we say, of GT7. So down to the bottom hairpin, and we're just beginning to see some battling here. Looks like Robo-Mags in the Ferrari just dropping off the pace of this group and beginning to drop down the order. And as we head into a turn, I don't even know, 10, I'm going to make up a number. I know that this right-hander coming up is the Bilstein corner, as I probably should. But you see there, the group in front very much fighting. Now we're back on the back of Rory, heading down towards the final chicane. And we're just beginning to have some glimmers of hope that something can go our way, because it's not been the best race. The preparation's not been the best. And the opening lap was pretty much a shambles. But here we're going to get a nice little switchback overtake. And that gives us the inside line for the final corner. Robo-Mags there covering the inside, Rory on the outside. We're just going to get the job done into the slipstream. Ferrari versus Lamborghini. Move to the right-hand side. Not quite able to get the job done here. With the car coming out of the pit lane as well. Rory behind is going to swing over to the right, up the inside. Brakes a little bit too late. By a little, I mean a lot. And unfortunately, take out the Porsche as well. And so we gain one, we lose one. We're up into 12th position. And almost a big mistake there. But we're going to try and continue. So already up to 12th. We were 16th, and that was looking like the nail in the coffin. You know, I was right at the back of the pack with dirty tyres against a good grid. It would have been very easy to give up at that point. But there's always something to learn, I think, by continuing and just seeing what you can gather. So head down the hill. Kevin and Robo-Mags here are going to engage in some warfare as Kevin goes extremely defensive. It's quite frustrating when you're trying to catch up with that group in front. You see the group of 3, maybe 2 seconds up the road. They're just beginning to pull clear as we overfight, I would say. So coming up through the Schumacher S. I'm going to try and get a nice move through here. The Audi actually a very quick car these days. As Kevin gets a poor run. To contradict what I just said, but that was more driver error, I would say. Up the inside we go into corner X, into then Bilstein corner. Up behind Robo-Mags. Looking at the top 10, I mean, again, kind of incredible to be last and now fighting for a top 10. And again, who knows what the group at the very front of the pack have been doing. If they've been killing each other and fighting excessively, then there's much more chance for even more positions. So you never quite know. Definitely a lesson. There's always something you can learn in the race. On the exit of the final corner, not quite getting the run, the Ferrari gets really good traction. And there was a car I used recently in the Red Bull Ring wet race. To good effect, but that was a couple of weeks ago and it was in wet weather conditions, a little bit different than this. Into turn 1, I sense that Robo-Mags is just slightly off the pace here. Probably good pace, just not the consistency quite to truly maximise that car. Look at that, all the way to the outside and beyond the red and white. Possibly a penalty, but I don't think he's going to get one. So dropping through the right-hander of turn 4. Again, of course, you go really wide here. You can do that without getting any penalties. Now, that's a good first sector for Robo. On the brakes, you can see there. I'm not sure if that Ferrari has bad brakes or he's losing confidence in it. We just make a bit of contact there. Frustrating hit down the hill. We're going to let him go back in front. As we're looking behind at Kevin. I kind of want to move forward here. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving backwards quite quickly. With the Audi very quickly in tow. Thankfully there, Robo goes really wide. Goes deep into the hairpin. And we gain a position up into 10th. 2.7 second margin to those in front, which is quite frustrating, quite a big gap to try to reel in. It's going to be really difficult to do that. Going to have to do a second a lap for the remaining laps of the race. You might have noticed there Kevin and Robo just going side by side for the Schumacher S, which, as we found out in lap 1, is not ideal. Even if you do both stay on the track, you're both going to lose a lot of time by doing that. So up towards the chicane for the 6th time. Lots of time to be gained and lost on that chicane. Really, really important corner. And it can really make or break your lap here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Fortunately, when I race at the Nürburgring, we run the other chicane, the sort of the faster one that comes after, which I much prefer. I don't think I quite like the tight one as much. So this is now the final lap before we're going to be engaged in a really good battle to round out this race. So I'm P10, and as I've alluded to multiple times, the group in the front of the pack are, well, it's a mystery. We hope that they've been fighting and knocking each other out and getting penalties and all of that. In which case, that would very much propel us into a battle to gain more positions. And I mean, just looking at the map there, you can see that the group is not necessarily nose to tail, as I probably was expecting from earlier on. So that suggests possibly that they've been battling or a penalty or two within that group. So it's just data we're taking on board. You know, you never know for sure exactly what's happened. But I'm going to try and maximise this in lap so that we get as close as possible to those who are going to go into the pit lane. So it's going to be really difficult to gain on that group in front. If I had had a good qualifying and, you know, a bit more luck on that opening lap, then, you know, I think I could easily be in that battle, in that 3 in front. But it just shows you, you know, the moments in the race that you have to get right. And if you, you know, if you lose 3 or 4 seconds in one go, especially on the opening lap, it's going to take an incredibly long amount of time to gain all of that back. If anything, in a lobby like this, you're not going to gain it back. And so, a couple of cars going into the pit lane. This is going to be the moment then, guys, as we finish lap number 7, coming up out of the chicane, up the hill, into the final corner, back to the main straight. See how the close is going to be. In fact, it's going to be very close. With myself and a fellow YouTube streamer, Bria, the Spanish driver, very quick guy. There he is, out of the pit lane in the Nissan GTR. Let's see if we can engineer another position. I think, as I said, in a lobby with this kind of strength, you know, Bria is an incredibly fast driver. As we look for the inside, he's going to cover it off. Not quite able to go for it. With a lobby as strong as this one, I think going from last to the top 10 and possibly more is good. Look at that massive moment. Huge save, which I was very close to losing control there. Thankfully, we do just enough to keep the car under control. Now, Bria just settling into this second stint of his after being released from the pit lane. So we don't want to get him or allow him to get too comfortable in his second stint on this 8th and penultimate lap. A bit of a moment there. He almost went 90 degrees sideways, and looking up the inside is not quite going to happen there. So he kind of goes offline there slightly. This is going to set up a sequence of corners whereby he's off the line here. He runs really narrow, and I'm just trying to get him to have a bad run and a bad exit. And that's a reminder there. Nearly on 1 million subscribers, guys. If you wouldn't mind subscribing and helping me get there, that would be very much appreciated. As we head towards the chicane, we're going to fake to the right, then duck into the left at the last moment. I don't think you would have expected that. We're going to carry the speed in. We're going to have to park it on the apex to prevent the old switcheroo. And it's a good move. I mean, it's a very aggressive move, but it is a move, and it has worked. As we round out the final corner onto the final lap of 9, a couple more cars into the pit lane. Are there going to be opportunities here for more positions? So up into 8th, we gained on someone who was in the pit lane there. We haven't quite gained on this car, the Hyundai in front. As Bria behind goes for the dive bomb, doesn't quite make it work. So he's going to have to wait for the time being. Is there a chance at 7th place? 7th would be great, given the nature of our opening lap, which was, well, shocking, awful. I had no right to have any result from where I was on that opening lap. 16th, down and out in the gravel, and here we find ourselves battling for 7th. Just shows you never know. Dropping down in through turn 5 and 6. He's a little bit wide. There's possible chances here. You never quite know. As I seem to be comfortable in the second half of this lap after this corner here. Dropping into the hairpin, which seems to go on forever. And then up through the Schumacher rest. This is a really fun corner. Not just on the game, but also in real life. throw it over the curb, carry the speed as much as possible. And then we have a couple more corners to go. Bria looking really close. He actually looks half up the inside for this move. I go wide, give him the space. Through the right-hander of Bilstein. Onto the back straight. We're looking a little bit too far back. Now Costas is looking up the insides of Bria. Are we going to be able to gain this position? We're looking for a mistake now from the Spanish player in front. Is it quite going to happen? You never know through the chicane. Easy to get a penalty here. Doesn't quite happen. And Bria resumes 9th place. A really good battle there, I think, as we had to really fight for that. And yeah, a good result, I think, given the lack of preparation, the lack of practice, and eventually finishing 17 seconds. You know, if we start qualifying a little bit better and have a good opening lap, we probably would have been in that battle for that 4th spot. Could have been a really good result there, but thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.